guys. So I just wanted to show you how I multiply our stock of dahlias, especially some of the tubers that I buy that are specialty tubers. They can get really expensive, up to $35 a piece. And so it's not really feasible to buy a huge amount of stock of something like that. So a cheap way to do that is to take cuttings from your dahlia tubers. So I've got my tubers here in this little garden that I set up. So here's my little dahlia cutting garden. I've got several tubers down in the soil with their neck is sticking out of the top. And these get misted daily in a little bit of water. They're sitting on a heating mat. You can see here, this one's ready. That's their eye. This is where the eye was, and it will shoot out a sprout. You can also see that here, this one had three different eyes. Here is one that's just getting ready to go. That's the eye, and its sprout is just starting to get going. And I've been misting these regularly until they wake up. So each sprout is what I'm going to take a cutting off of. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I've got my little X-Acto knife right here, and you want to make sure it's sanitized every time you take a cutting. And so I'll take my little X-Acto knife, and I get in here, and I'm going to cut this sprout off of here. Okay, so I'm cutting right up against that tuber there. So I took most of the leaves off of this one because if you take the leaves off, that's going to encourage the energy of the plant to go to making roots instead of keeping the plant alive. So I took most of them off except the top couple. And another really cool thing about taking these cuttings is that once you take the first cutting, there's like 10 more that are getting ready to shoot back out behind it. So it's almost hard to keep up with once you take that first cutting, but you're gonna get so many plants out of this, it's super rewarding. So we have this nice, neat little cutting. And then I'm going to dip it in rooting hormone. There's all different kinds. I like this one. So you just dip it in the rooting hormone. You don't need much at all, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. So that goes on the bottom. And then I use these little rooting cubes, which are pre-moistened. This is the brand, and that's also the brand of rooting hormone that I use. So I'm gonna take a pencil and poke it down in here into this. There's a little hole, but it's not quite big enough. So I use this so it doesn't damage the cutting. Okay, and then I'm just gonna stick the little cutting with the rooting hormone on the end right down in there until it reaches the bottom. So it gets that heat. I don't know if you can see that there. And then that one is Tahoma April. So I put a tag with the date on it, and they should root within 10 days. So once we've got these little cuttings down into their rooting cube and they've got their label, we're gonna mist them every day. And they also need to be under a humidity dome. So these get misted. You don't want it to get too wet because they'll rot. But they get a humidity dome over the top, and they're also on the heat mat to encourage rooting. So these are some that I took 10 days ago, and you can see they're looking a little bit floppy, but that's a good sign because it seems like they look like they're almost going to die right before they root. And I was checking on these this morning, and they feel like they're rooting. I just don't see the roots on the outside yet, but if you pull on it, it's secure in there. So they're rooting, and that's what they're gonna look like right before they root. So The cool thing about this is that when you are planting out your cuttings as opposed to tubers, they start blooming. Mine are usually at least a month early as opposed to the tubers. So it's a good way to stagger your harvest. The first year, they usually don't produce many tubers. You may only get one or two. But after that, they'll start producing regular tubers, and you can divide them and multiply your stock within a matter of... Anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. And if you have any questions, just let me know.